My life was made for poetry. Loves and losses, torture and ecstasy, chaos alchemized to order, layers and nuance, and all that lies in between. The extreme counterbalanced by the extreme, then the mundane. Lying on the carpet, ear to the ground, cassette player, Beethoven's Seventh on repeat. Chaos. Survival. The antithesis of growth. Repeat. I don't think my life looks like most. When written down, when examined in its totality, is hardly believed. And yet in this moment it feels as mundane as life could be. Normal, paced, unclear in its trajectory. I have lived so many lives. It makes sense one of them would be like this, that it should be like this. For the longest time, my life was the chaos, and the world seemed to be in order when in truth, nothing has ever been in order, not my life nor the world. And the world has always been coming to an end for one reason or another, proclaimed by those who chaos benefits. The balance community, we, have either embraced the end or fought it, built community in response to chaos, or given into the madness. Made it even more extreme still, hastened its ending to end the uncertainty, lured by the romance of dying, the kiss for some. Yet life persists, never succeeding in the ending, only the living, while we ignore living for the ending's sake, while the living is the sake. But when you slow down, when you take a breath, when you write it all down and read what has been written, realize someone has made the extremes the mundane. When you look closely, some dedicated to the harmful and chaotic, and some determined that life should succeed, could build a much better world together. But somehow, and for some reason, we insist on reliving the cycles of the past, living the chaotic lives that have already been lived in new iterations. I wonder what the trees think, what they say to the mushrooms, having witnessed human history, their conversations gathered beneath our feet. I wonder if they beg for us to do it differently this time, and if we'll ever listen. If we'll ever, for once in human history, create a world where the mundane is not chaos, but kindness and community and compassion, the kind of lives that are so full of joy and so intertwined. The living world is once again living instead of surviving, that we could never go back to a world and to lives marked by chaos, written down and examined, hardly to be believed. This is a poem I wrote the other day. I'm currently working on my book. I'm almost a third of the way through the first draft, right? The first rough draft. And I'm incorporating poems that I wrote throughout my young years, my youth, my adolescence, my teenage years, even into my early 20s. I want to counterbalance and contrast what I wrote in my journals about what my life looked like. I want to share aspects of those journal entries with, within the text of how I'm describing my life as I look back on it. Because I think there's a stark contrast there, or there's contrast there, whether it be stark or not, as to how I interpret my life now through the lens of transformation and of healing and growth versus how I experienced it at the time. And I think it's really important for us to understand that there's a big difference between the two. And I think maybe it gives people and empowers people to recognize how far they've come, and also how far it's possible to come, to go, to expand, to grow, and what, when we look back, our lives could look like from a place of healing, what it could feel like from a place of healing, as opposed to being in the chaos and the trauma of it all. And what would happen if we collectively, and because we individually healed, but also because we collectively healed. Because I really truly believe that true healing only happens, and true knowledge and understanding only happen in the collective, in community. What would be possible for us to grow and change and create together as we heal and grow and learn? And I was sitting with that and wrote this poem the other day. I hadn't written a poem in a while, I usually write a few a year. They're not all good. And I definitely don't share them all, but I wanted to share this one because I think in this moment, there's so much creativity that lives inside of us, and allowing that and empowering that creativity to come out. It doesn't need to be shared to be powerful. It doesn't need to be well composed to be important. It doesn't need to be shared to be a part of our story and our journey. It doesn't need to be refined. It could sit and exist as we want it to, or we could refine it, right? We could let it out, let it be in its raw form, and let it exist simply for us and for our own reflection. We could choose to share it with the world in its raw form or in its, iterations and its refinement. There's so much that's possible for us in our creative expression, and that creative expression and tapping back into that and reconnecting to that is a really important marker for our healing and our growth, and seeing what comes out, right? Because we can see what's coming out and know where our mental health is, right? Anyway, I wanted to share it because I thought maybe for someone it might remind you that there's creativity that's been sitting inside of you that maybe you haven't let out because you needed it to be something that it isn't. When it just exists because it is there. It exists because you are alive and it's a part of you. Creativity exists in all of us, in one form or another, and often in multiple forms, right? There was times in my life where I was heavy on physical art, like drawing and sketching and painting. There's been a lot of times in my life where it was physical art and dancing and physical expression and singing. There's other times that it has come out in the form of writing, journaling, writing articles, poetry, a book, right? This is my second book. My first was a romance book I wrote under a pen name. It comes out of us. And I think it's important that we let it out, because the more that we let out our creativity, the more we realize our connection to the entire world. It's through our creativity that we recognize our connection to the living world. And we recognize that we are valuable simply because we exist, when we let our art exist for art's sake and for no other reason.